Thank you very much, and I'd like to ask our second panel now to come to the stage. Please come on up. We have Tina Front, the founder of Courtney's House. We have Carolyn Jones, who is a resident advocate of Streetlight USA. Ann Wilkinson, Director of Mentor Services, My Life is Choice. And our moderator to open up, say a few words, and get the conversation going is Kara Vandekar, Executive Director of Eden House. So thank you, Kara.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador, and thank you, Mrs. McCain and McCain Institute for putting on this valuable symposium. And as we all know, one of the first steps in fighting a problem is understanding the problem and understanding that you have a problem. And that's why these kinds of symposiums are so valuable. So thank you. And thank you to these lovely ladies that I get to introduce, Ann and Carolyn and Tina. I'm very honored to be here on stage with these ladies and be able to introduce them. My name is Kara Vandekar, and I am the co-founder and I was the executive director, now president of the board of Eden House. And I was asked to come and introduce these lovely ladies because after starting a home for survivors, a residence for 2 years, I understand the value in survivor leadership in a very real way. Eden House is a 2-year residential program in New Orleans, Louisiana, that started out of my work writing the Trafficking in Persons report for the State Department in the country of Jamaica, and my work as an attorney changing the laws in Louisiana and realizing we can have great laws. We can have these amazing reports. If we have nowhere for survivors to go to recover, we have nothing. So my co-founder and I started Eden House. It's a 2-year residential program. We offer our residents free of charge housing, food, medical care, psychiatric care, job training, education, dental services, all of the support they need and the resources they need to take their lives back and to recover and to do it on their own, because no one can do it for you. And one of the most interesting things that I've really seen and been inspired by is the power of the human spirit, which is absolutely incredible when you hear survivor stories. And the other thing that is weird for me to say as an attorney and a former diplomat is actually the principle upon which Eden House is founded. It's a model that we've used called the Magdalene House model out of Nashville, Tennessee. It is founded on the principle that love is the strongest force for change in the universe. And only through loving and respecting each of our women and residents when they come through the door, recognizing their intrinsic beauty, can we then, through that love, give them the resources they need to heal themselves. And I was thinking about Mr. Clark's remarks that I'm in a room full of fighters. We're all in a room full of fighters. But you know, I want to challenge all of you fighters, because I'm one of them, that maybe the way to win this fight is through love. And maybe that's the only way to win this fight, is to recognize the intrinsic beauty of all of our survivors, of everyone victimized by this type of crime. And through the respect and recognition and love of that intrinsic beauty, can we give other people the strength that they need to fight their own fight? And the power of that love I have seen most poignantly through the love that survivors give to other survivors. It is incredibly different when one survivor who's in an amazing place and in recovery can reach her hand back and look into the eyes of another survivor and say to her, I've been there. I know where you are. I know where you've been. But I did it. And so can you. And that is the love and the power of these women here And that is why this is really the heart of recovery, is empowering women like these three amazing women here to do the work that only they can do. And so I want to recognize and congratulate each of them for everything they've done to be here, because no one can imagine or even grasp the stories and how much people can survive and still be able to, through the power of the human spirit, stand up and help others and be a part of that recovery for so many more is really incredible. And I want to let each of these ladies say a little bit about what they do. Tina, we're going to put you on the hot seat. Tina Front is the founder of Courtney's House, and I'm going to give her a few minutes to say a little bit about what she does.
Okay. Hello, everyone. So I'm very interactive, so I'm trying to fight the urge to put everyone in a circle and we can talk about our feelings and what all about trafficking. So my name is Tina Front and I'm the founder of Courtney's House. Courtney's House is based here in Washington, D.C. It's a drop-in center, and we provide long-term services for both males and females, ages 11 to 21. 21 means you enter in at 21, doesn't mean you exit. We also have support groups. Every other Saturday, we focus on transitioning your mindset out of the life. We also have parent support groups because 40% of our referrals come from parents. And I think it's really important because for some odd reason, there's this message that no one has a family and no one has anyone looking for them, and that's not a true statement at all. So I think that's interesting. We do street outreach on the street from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. in high trafficking areas. So I want you to think about that for a moment, and then I will tell you that we do street outreach 4.5 blocks away from here. So we also focus on DC, Maryland, Virginia. So one of the malls we do outreach in is this Tyson's Corner. So just kind of giving you an idea of expanding your mind on trafficking. So that's what Courtney's House does, long-term services. Both male and female. So I want us to know that, of course, boys are trafficked as well, and the LGBT population. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. Carolyn Jean Jones. And now, Carolyn, you get to be on the hot seat. Carolyn is with us from Streetlight USA out of Phoenix, Arizona. And I'd love it, Carolyn, if you'd tell us a little bit about what you do in Arizona through Streetlight.
Hi, my name is Carolyn Jones, and I work with an organization called Streetlight USA. And what we do at Streetlight is we house the young victims that our officers find, or sometimes they come through CPS, private placements. We actually house the girls. We take girls from 11 to 18. We can house them until they're 25 if they're in school. These girls come to us, they go to school there. A lot of them do not even realize that they're victims. And it do take a long time for them to even recognize that they're being victimized. Because they look at it like, I'm not a victim, that's a weak word. They look at victim as a weak word. I also do a group with them called Let's Rap. And in this group, I hear some of everything. They are allowed to talk their language, the way they talk. They're allowed to tell their truth the way, according to them. I sit with them, and so in sitting with them, you will hear a lot of their pain through allowing them to speak. And so they go to school there, they have art class there, they go visit with their family. We have family counseling. I counsel with them, and I work with organizations that works with these young girls.
Thank you. And now I want to introduce Ann Wilkinson. Ann is the Director of Mentoring Services at My Life, My Choice. And we had a great conversation earlier about what those services look like and why those services are so powerful and so important.
Hi, everybody. My name's Ann Wilkinson, as you heard. First, I want to thank the McCain Institute for their work and the great effort that they put together to address this issue. We were supposed to be here last month, and the snow kept us from coming.
Yes.
So I'm really glad to be here, and thank you guys so much for your services. My Life, My Choice was started in 2011. It was started as a result of a young girl being found dead. It was later discovered that she had been murdered, that she had run away from home, and that she had been exploited by a pimp. And so we still don't know what happened to her, but My Life, My Choice was born out of that. I have the pleasure of directing the mentoring program. However, we have 3 parts to My Life, My Choice. We train across the United States. We train law enforcement, social services, anybody who wants to know about CSEC, the commercial sexual exploitation of children. We also have a 10-week curriculum that we run in schools and group homes and DYS and social service agencies that educate youth, and that's our prevention model, to educate young girls. We work with girls, boys, and transgender youth, but the majority of our work we started was with girls because that's a major population that is being exploited. And lastly, my favorite and the best part of what we do is we have a one-to-one mentoring program. Survivors are paired with youth who are at risk of being exploited or have been exploited, and they get to have one-to-one relationship with a mentor. Our girls are under 18. However, a mentor will not leave her at all, so they're with her forever. So that's like the best part of what we do, and I get to direct that program. I supervise the mentors, which are all survivors. Our work is kind of unique in that all of our mentors are survivors of exploitation, and that it's very effective. We found it's most effective. So that's kind of a little bit of what we do. I don't want to talk too much because then I'll answer all the questions.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you.
Well, I have a couple of questions for you ladies, but I'm happy to have it as a dialogue too. Tina, the first question is actually for you, and I know you've been on the front lines fighting human trafficking for a long time now.
We're not going to name the years.
We're not going to say how many years. All of us young ladies, we're not going to just say, but it's been a while, and so you've had a lot of experience and have seen the changes that have been made about the dialogue about human trafficking, and I'm wondering, what do you think some of the progress is, and what are the challenges that we still have where we haven't made as much progress as we need to make?
Well, I was in this movement from the very beginning, since 2003. So I think I saw a lot of change, some policy change as well. There are more events and more training around the country. There is more awareness of human trafficking. I found that to be a change. There are more people wanting to do housing and services, so I think that's good. There are more expansion of different types of services, which I also think is good, and more police wanting to do something. Now, on the other side of that, we're still a young movement. So I think people need to understand that. This is a very young movement still. Yeah. We are nowhere near sexual assault and domestic violence. Mm-hmm. So we're still in that beginning phase of where do we fit survivors in? Right. Mm-hmm. And where do we put them? Do we use them as a story? Do we use them to help us run our organizations? Or do we have leadership roles? So I think that's kind of where we are still, as survivors, kind of still trying to get paid the same and still trying to get recognition on that. So we do a lot of work, but actually survivors are the lowest paid in the movement. Even speaking fees are $100 and $200 to tell our life story. So I think that it's great that we're getting more awareness, but I do think that it's also awareness of how to treat survivors in the movement. Mm-hmm. And I actually think that's happening because I'm on the federal side. And on the federal side, we're having a lot of conversations and even trying to see what we can do on the policy level of that. Meaning consistency in training. I think it's some amazing training out here. I think it's no consistency. So sometimes people learn a different way of trafficking and very different when a survivor does it. Yes. And they can kind of, it's very different. So that means one isn't better than the other. It means that we must collaborate those two together in a fair way that we would do with any contract and corporation, and include survivors in a fair way, just like in domestic violence and sexual assault we had to, and make sure that they are always a constant voice, because this movement started off of our lives. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
That's right. Good.
So Courtney's House is now 8 years old, and you've had a lot of survivors come through your doors and start a new path of healing. What are the tools needed for that healing process, and what do you think are the most important aspects of that healing process?
I think that's a really good question to ask about what the tools are that you need. I think people ask that a lot. So my number one tool that I think you need is a true understanding of each form of sex trafficking, right? Because you actually can't provide services if you don't fully understand that. And I mean that there are 4 paradigms for trafficking. So pimp control, gang control, family, and boys. So to help the population you serve, right, we actually have to have a full understanding first. And if we're working with boys, and also girls, then we have to have a full understanding of what the LGBT is and what trafficking actually looks like. That's one. The next piece to that is that understanding that survivors of sex trafficking are people, right? Because people are different. And because people are different, it would be awesome that if we can just have this big blanket and put everybody under the blanket and everyone's healed the same exact way, that would be great. It's just that it doesn't work that way. So services should be long-term. If we're doing housing, which is amazing to just throw up all this housing, that's great. Here's the problem with that. People are not gonna live in your housing forever. So what type of other services, because housing is great, it's just that trauma's not fixed in a year and 2 years. So what are the longer term? What services are we doing for the boys? So for me, it's just that serving the population. So at Courtney's House, to answer that, what are we doing differently? For me, we do use the Harriet Tubman model. Harriet Tubman was a slave. Not only was she a slave, she freed herself from slavery, went back, risked her life, and helped free others. Here's the thing about that. She did not say that she only would help slaves that were female. She did not say that she will only help slaves that are over the age of 18. What she did was say that I will help everyone that is in slavery. So if we are going to help this population, our population, mine, this is who I am, then we must embed ourselves into the services, understand that, and not put these stipulations. Stipulations are put into place because of funding. But after 18, where would I go then? So that's what I think the services need to be.
Great.
Thank you, thank you.
Yes, good.
Well, and I think that you touched upon something that that we've seen kind of as a dialogue, and I think the senator earlier touched upon it, which is once you become 18, and the dialogue then changes, but everybody was a child once, and because you didn't get help when you were a child and in trafficking, but now you're 18 and all of a sudden, presto, you know, everything should be solved. I think that you
I'd just like to add to that though, but that's on the U.S. citizen side. So the average age for someone on the foreign national side that is getting out of a trafficking situation is 23. That's the average age. And so you're still able to get everything that you need, and help, and to bring your family over. But for some reason, when we're talking about U.S. citizens, we keep stopping at 18. So my trafficking situation stopped in my late 20s. It's not my fault that society did not find me, would not give me help. So that's what I think the framework, we have to stop that framework of one trauma is better than the other. It's not all trauma is bad.
Thank you. What goals do the United States Advisory Council on Human Trafficking have for anti-human trafficking efforts within the United States?
So I was recently appointed by President Obama to the White House Advisory Board on sex trafficking. We're all survivors on human trafficking, and we're all survivors, which I think is amazing, both foreign national, U.S., domestic servitude. It's really good. With that being said, on April 16th at the SPOG meeting, we will be announcing our strategic plan, what policy to take on that we're going to be dedicating to take on for the next 2 years for trafficking. My passions are The demand, ending demand, is a humongous passion. And I really need you all to understand why, right? We talk about that a lot, but I'm going to take you real bit quick to something very different for you. The demand fuels this. Without supply, there is no demand. And we can say that maybe men who buy sex, they don't know. They have no idea. It's tricked upon them. But the nightmares that I had and our survivors had and people who still try to solicit me, and I'm grown and been out the life for years, that is what continues to fool it. So demand, but also I grew up in the foster care system. So growing up in a foster care system, we still need stronger laws inside of foster care, identifying, but not just teenagers. We have to identify children who are trafficked, and it looks like child abuse, but we're not asking the right questions. And then our other passion is safe harbor laws. So a safe harbor law are laws that protect children who are trafficked. So on a federal level, I would like to include age 21. If you're in a foster care, you actually get committed sometimes. All of our survivors are actually committed till they're 21 because of mental health. Well, if you are committed and it's the state actually who has legal custody, why are we charging them, right, for being sex trafficked because they're 18, but they're in a foster care, so they can't even have legal custody over themselves. So that's something we're trying to look on a federal level of upping that age, which means then I would have to change, we got to change New York, right? New York and North Carolina, 16 age, but those are some of the things we would like to work on.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Tina.
Thank
That
you.
was really great. Carolyn, I have some questions for you. I'd love to know a little bit about your work with the girls that you work with through Streetlight USA and your work to help them heal and what work you've done to help heal yourself and be to the place where you are today.
Thank you. One of the things that I'm recognizing that because it is a new movement and this is all brand new, and we finally have got some people in Arizona that's bold enough, strong enough, have enough love and enough care to take this issue on. And one of them people that I have is Cindy McCain. That's my Cindy, you know. That's my Cindy. That's bold enough to step against pimps. You know, everybody, you know. We have in Arizona what I think what we're doing there and what's making our girls strong and what's giving our girls a voice is I believe, and every survivor should believe, that in her state, they're leading the charge. Every survivor should feel that in her state, from the governor to the mayor to the council, the attorney general, the officers, the case workers, case managers, everybody should feel, because it's going to take everybody. I could not do this by myself. But however, I feel like we're all these scientists, and we've been given this task to, okay, now what do we need to combat this issue? What do we need to eradicate this issue? And everybody brought what they had and put it in this pot. You say, okay, now we need love, we need hope, we're going to need finances, we're going to need homes, we're going to need mental health especially, because we're going to need these girls to be empowered. We're going to need all these things. We're going to need to renew their mind. It's a lot of work. Whatever you have to bring, is you put it all in this week. So we all said, okay, let's do it. Let's save these victims. Let's save these little girls. And we put all of this stuff in this big pot. And we're mixing up this potion. We got everything we need. But now we got to mix this potion up. And before I can help them, I have to be the first one to drink it. So we're forgetting that we were survivors before we became adults. And in order for me to get something, and I'm waiting where I see us at, and I'm waiting to see now, okay, I can bring these girls to this group, and we're in this group, and I'm telling them, what do you need? And they're telling me everything that they need, but the potion ain't been made yet. We're still making it. But we got all the right seasons. We got hot sauce. We got everything. We got everything in Arizona, and I do. I feel like that. At my state, my vice, my mayor, the governor, everybody, attorney general, the senator, everybody have my back. But sometimes I feel like when I get there, I have nothing to offer because I still need to. And a lot of times, we'll put these masks on. Survivors have a lot of masks. We'll put these masks on. I'll sit up here and I act like, oh, everything is good, but I don't want to lie. I sit on the city council on a committee that my Cindy leads, and I sit on this council, and I'm the survivor that sit on this council, and I tell them, they asked when I got on the council, they asked each one of us, what do we have to bring to the table, to this issue? And when it got to me, I sit on this council, we have doctors, we have attorney general, we have all these different people, legislators. And I sit there as a survivor, and I say, only thing I have is my experience, strength, and hope. So I try to be as honest, as raw, as real as I can be because it's not about me. It's about those young girls that's gonna die. Because see what it took for me to get out of there is in Arizona, it was 6 women, survivors. They were all found dead. They had families, they had people that love them. And they was finding their bodies in railroad tracks, in alleys, in dumpsters. They was finding all these girls, and the way it was played out, oh, another prostitute found dead. Another drug addict prostitute found dead. Out of all them 6 women that they found, I knew 4 of them women. And one of them women was my oldest sister. And when they found my sister Janice and they found her dead, I cried out at a bus stop one night and I said, I want out of here. And now, see, all of that time still need to be healed. And I still need to work on that. So now I have these young girls looking at me and they think I'm something. And I love them, and they do. They really do think I'm something special when I walk on the property. And we had this group, Let's Rap. And I'm seeing their trauma, but what I'm actually seeing is my 15-year-old girl that was trafficked is looking at their 15-year-old girl and understanding. I understand what they're going through, but I can't go in there as the adult because I have to go in there still as the 15-year-old girl and communicate with them on that level to let them understand, because that's what reaches, that's how I reach them, is I make myself 15. I don't come in there, I'm trying to be their friend. I just go in there and let them know I understand your pain. And one of the things that's so hard is because we are a group home and we're a group home. So yeah, after we house them, we feed them, we buy them clothes, we buy them nails and hair, whatever they want. We have yet to touch that trauma. I do not want another survivor, young kid, to leave no facility and their mental health has not been touched. Because as a survivor, I still suffer through mental health. That's one of the biggest things. Nobody touches the trauma. Okay, we fix them up, we pretty them up, and we give them their life back together, but then all you got now is a dressed up garbage can that it's all pretty. But our girls need so much help. And the main thing is how do we, because you can either have a license for a group home or a therapeutic center. And what I'm finding is that you need both of them. You need to address the trauma that the girl's been through. So that's the main thing we need is how can we put them two together?
Thank you. That was amazing. And that was so great because you answered my next question too, all in one, which was going to be, what do we need? How do we give people that courage and that hope? And I love what you said is that you become 15 with them again and connect in that way to give them that courage and hope. You've had a lot of honors for all of your work and your successes. You've been honored by Arizona's governor, the mayor of Phoenix, the Arizona Attorney General. See, they do have your back. Have you seen a change in the way that human trafficking is handled in Arizona? since you've been working with government and government officials, and if so, what are those changes that you've seen?
The biggest change I've seen is with our vice officers. That's the biggest change. Is they came in at first, a lot of our, and I've had the opportunity to speak on panels with our vice officers. I think is the outlook, the mindset of what they see. They used to have a frame. When I was out in the streets, when I was on Van Buren in Arizona, it was like, okay, their attitude was, let's go arrest as many prostitutes as we can and get them off the streets. And you know, just get them away. You know, they messing up the neighborhood. Now I see our vice officers are more concerned and they're more understanding. We still have some work to do, but we have some vice officers that have said, not on my watch. Will you take children? And I think that's what it took. And they was finding younger and younger girls, and they didn't know what to do with them. So now we are, one of the things that's one of the biggest things I've seen. And we've crossed all kind of lines and different things. And and in Arizona, we've taken this attitude, it don't matter if you believe like I believe. Do you care about what I care about? Do you care that right now, while I'm here in Washington, in Arizona, there's a young girl that's being trafficked for the first time tonight? Do you care about that? It doesn't matter to us. It don't matter. We want this issue eradicated. And we want to be the frontline soldiers. We want to be the leaders. We want to partner with other organizations. It's like we have this thing where now we're all saying, okay, it's not about big I, little you. It's we all recognize that this is an issue. It's not about me. It's not about my organization. We don't want to duplicate organization. We want others to come alongside organizations like Streetlight and partner with us. So we have the state that's coming with us, that's trying to help us get laws in place, trying to help us get the healing that the girls got. If we, in fact, got the girls, if we got the girls, why are we continue to open up other houses when we haven't even found a cure for the girls we have? I want to take care of those that's in our hands. I want to strengthen them, and I want them to heal them, and I want one day them to be the 3 panels up here. That's my heart. And I have people in Arizona that support that we all come together. And that's the big thing. It's like we got everything we need. There's nothing lacking, nothing missing. Is that how do we unify what we have? How do we make it work so lives can be changed, that laws can be changed, and that girls can live again and dream again and be free and be able to look at themselves in the mirror and not see this failure, this broken person, this traumatized girl, this drug addict, this prostitute, this throwaway, this molested child. I want them to see a warrior. I want them to see the beauty that they are. I want them to see that they fearless and wonderfully made. I want them to see how loved they are. And it's going to take us all in Arizona and everywhere to come together and show that we love each other, that we support each other. There ain't no big eyes and little U's. It's like I want to be able to go to her state and come here and say, this is what we're doing. Survivors coming together, saying this is what we need to do. And in Arizona, we do nothing without a survivor in it. We do nothing. They don't let no law get passed. They don't let no house get built. They don't let no funds get raised without a survivor. And not somebody just there to tell their story. Right. They want to know. Cindy asked me, well, what do you think? I don't sit on that board and this Dr. Dominique and this Attorney General, this person ain't this ghetto curly. You know, I don't just sit there. They want to know my opinion. They ask and they listen to me, and it makes me feel loved. And Claire, you know, they make me feel safe enough to be honest and be real. I don't want to sit here and put a face on for y'all. I was scared to come here. I was really afraid. And then when it got canceled, I kind of like, okay. But I remember a year ago, my Cindy said, Carolyn, I want you to think about going to Washington. We was at the City Hall. We did something at City Hall, and she said, I want you to think about going to Washington. I ran home, told my mom, Sidney McCain said, I'm going to Washington. Sidney McCain going. You know, my mom, and every day for a year, when you going to Washington? When you going to Washington? And so I couldn't tell her I was coming here for a long time. And so now, I'm here. And it was as the mentality is fear set in. Fear. Now what you going down there for? This gonna happen, this gonna happen. And it's about me conquering. That's what I want for our girls at Street Light, is to feel the fear and do it anyway. I want them, and I was afraid to come here. I got this fear, old fear. And it wasn't an adult curling that was afraid, it was a little girl curling that was afraid.
Well, tell little girl Carrollton that you just moved me to Arizona. She's like, I don't know, I might be coming back with you.
So let's do this. I'll take you. But I'm just honored that, if I can say anything, it's like I am very proud of my state, very proud of my organization. I'm very proud to be a part of this movement. I'm honored that I got real women that understand my pain. Automatically, when I saw them, it's like something in me jumped. I see me. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Anne, I have some questions for you.
Okay.
That's a tough act to follow. You have been on the front lines working with girls who have been exploited for many years, and I want to know something about, tell me some of the hardest parts of your job. What are the biggest challenges that you have day to day?
I think the hardest part for me, or the most challenging part, is watching a girl go through the stages of change and the relapse process, and being powerless in her process. Because recovery from exploitation is like a roller coaster. And so it's up, it's down, and when she's in that down, just being powerless and just know to stay in position for when she's ready to move on in her recovery. That's the hardest part, is just dealing with the challenges and the barriers that she faces in her process. That's the hardest part. That's the hardest part.
And what is kind of the best or most fulfilling, what's the most rewarding for you in your day to day?
Looking into a young person's eyes and seeing the hope restored in their eyes.
Yes.
And seeing the light come on, and they begin to believe that they can change, that there's hope, that they're not alone, and that it's going to be okay. It's going to be a process, but it's going to be okay. It's going to be all right.
I'd love to hear more about your mentoring process and a little bit about how that works, and some of the programs that you do to really capture the power of survivor mentorship.
First and foremost, we are survivors, but more than that, we are leaders. So we're more than just survivors of exploitation. We are leaders in the movement. We are experts in the movement of exploitation. We are. And so coming from that perspective, we want to bring to a young person, when we meet, I'm going to slow it down because I direct the program now, but I used to be the intake coordinator, so you'll hear me like move all over the place because, and I also was a mentor. And what we do is we meet the young person, our intake coordinator goes out, she tells that young person a little piece of her story based on what she's read about that person. She's going to give them a little snapshot of who she is and what services we provide, and it's voluntary. So a youth that wants the service is provided. Although, DYS and, the courts and different people may stipulate them, it's pretty much voluntary, and we've very rarely, I think maybe we've had 2 or 3 girls that did not want the service. But when the coordinator meets her, she goes through that process, and then she pairs her with a survivor who then meets her and meets with her weekly, sometimes more often than that, based on what that young person needs. She will connect her to other services. She will meet with her, take her to eat, do some things that maybe she's never done before. which is really important. When I first started working for My Life, My Choice, our associate director, Audrey Morrissey, brought me on, and we were like, she was the first mentor, and she kind of showed me what to do. And I remember we would take them everywhere, like the finest restaurants. We were like spending all kinds of money because we just wanted this young person to know that she's valued, simply because she is, not because she has to do something. We don't expect anything from you. And one of the things you have to be able to do is to fill that void that the pimp filled. For lack of a better way to say it, you have to give them that love, but it's more, it's real, it's not fake, it's not on the presumption that they're going to do something, but be there for them simply because they're worth it. And so, yeah.
Excellent.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's great.
If you could make a wish list, a dream about the kinds of tools and resources that you wish were more easily available, that there's more need for these resources and tools for girls and survivors to heal and recover, what would that be?
I think, of course, we need more funding to have more people to provide the service, so more funding for mentors to work with youth. But also, really, in Boston especially, our human trafficking unit is for detectives. And that's it. It's very small. I think there needs to be more funding for law enforcement to work in human trafficking, to educate them, to help them understand how to work with the youth, but also put the money to have enough detectives and different people on it to really raise awareness, but also put an impact on the demand, to also address the demand. I think that we tread very lightly with perpetrators. I don't understand that. How we tread so lightly and we're so concerned about how they feel. Like, that blows me away, that a young girl's life is changed forever if she survives. It's changed forever. And you want to say that you want to make sure that him and his family is okay. Well, he should have thought about, okay. Okay. No.
Or even the conversations they tell you when they in there with you.
Exactly. Exactly. Like, it's just amazing to me. So I think that we need to put more money on education. I think we need to hold more people accountable for the parts that they play. Silence equals agreement, okay?
Wow.
When you say nothing, you say it's okay. And that's not okay with me. I don't want to keep going. I'm feeling my blood start. So let me. Woosah. Okay.
Okay, so I did have another question for you, but I also got the sign that we have 5 minutes left. So we're supposed to move into. I got cut off from my questions so that they can answer questions. No, but we'll take audience questions, and there's.
I tell you, that sound reminds me of home. That's Chicago wind.
All right, is there a question? There's a question right here.
How can government bureaucracy and professionals help you? And is there instances where they hinder you because of regulations prevent you from doing what in your heart you need to do?
One of the ways is because we have a stigma on us as prostitutes. When we go to get a job, we can't work, because that's one of the things that once they see that, we need that off the records, where we don't have to identify and say that we're a prostitute, or put that when you go for a job. And I think one of the things they can do is, like, they have these things for people that have disabilities, that if you hire a girl that have been sexually violated or whatever, I think we can have jobs that special things like that too. Where give us a chance. We some of the hardest, loving, working, honest people. If we just given a chance, we can do great things. We can build things. We business women. We bottom girls, okay?
Oh, Lord.
We know how to, we're brilliant. And these young girls they're brilliant girls. We just need an opportunity to just just give us a dream again. Give us a chance again.
You know, I think being on a White House advisory board for the policy piece, I'm excited about because we get to work on some of the things. She's speaking about vacate of charges, which I had to get mine vacated too. Every state is different, so it's actually harder than you think.
Yes.
It is, and it took years. Also, one of the things that people don't think about, you asked me, I work a lot with a lot of government officials, but one thing people don't. One of the things I actually had to do that took about 4 or 5 years to do was clean my credit, because when I was trafficked, the trafficker put a house in my name.
Right.
Put cars in my name at 14 and 15. There's no law. There wasn't, you know, you get your identity stolen, that's fine, but there was no law. It took me years to clean that up to prove I was only 14 and didn't have my house. And I think we're not thinking of that. So policy is a place for that, because they ruin not only you, your credit, you know, you can buy a Social Security number. It's pretty easy, but they sell ours.
For me, I think that we just need to get our heads out our butts, because, you know, we decided a long time ago in this country that it wasn't okay to sell a person, right?
Right.
We abolished slavery, right? So this is a human rights issue. So I don't know what the big deal is. Like, what do we need to do? It's human right. It's my human right to be treated with dignity and respect and not be sold. That's my right. And I don't understand why we have to just keep going around and talking about it. Talk about what? What? We're human. It is not okay. And I think if we begin to hold the people with the power that buy it accountable, we'll get somewhere. But until we really look at that and stop sugarcoating it and stop sweeping it under the rug and stop acting like it's not there, how many more girls have to die?
Right. And
How many more
boys.
girls have to die? And boys,
gays
and
and
transgender youth.
lesbians.
How many children? How many children have to die in this country? Because I know it's an international issue, but my concern, it's right here. And I'm so, like, it's right here.
And it's not hidden. And I think if I hear that one more time, I'm going to scream. Because it's not hidden.
No,
it
it's
isn't.
not.
It's in
We just
our
don't know
face
what
every
we're
day.
looking at.
Every day.
We say it's not. We judge someone. We say that street, that's something else. We say that. So it's always been in our face, right?
Exactly.
But we, in our heads, try to make it something else so we can justify why we didn't help.
And then don't get it misunderstood neither, just because you see 3 African Americans sitting here. One of the things that people really is missing, the ones that's most at risk, is the one that say, this wouldn't happen to my daughter.
Right.
Well, this doesn't happen in my neighborhood. This doesn't happen. It's just that we found our voice in, you know, because a lot of us die at the age of 33. Okay, that's our lifespan. And I was thinking, why am I still sitting? Because she could have picked anybody from my state to come here. Anybody. So I feel chosen. I feel honored that I get the opportunity to be a voice for this issue. But understand that this is just not a black thing, a white thing, a Hispanic thing, a native, a foreign thing. This thing don't care who it hurts. And one of the reasons why in Arizona, why it did come to Arizona, because there was a young woman that they found. They came from Scottsdale, had a nice home. It's girls. This is happening in youth churches everywhere. This thing don't care who it takes out. These predators don't care who they take out. So please, please, and it's the girl. What I think that's most at risk is the one parent that says, that would never happen to my daughter. And that doesn't happen in this neighborhood. If your child got an internet, it's probably can happen in your neighborhood, or it can probably happen in your home. Because now my daughter got everything. She have the purses and the clothes and the shoes and all of that.
She doesn't have
But
it
what
from
do she
them.
have?
She doesn't have it from them. The person who gave it to them. They didn't give it to them. It's not about things. It's about that feeling, right?
Yes.
The person that
that
saying
predator.
they care, that predator, even that female best friend.
And don't think this is not a bad man thing neither. It's bad women that's doing this to young girls. It's other young girls that are doing this to young girls. It's mothers doing it to daughters. His uncle's violating because he wants some hair on, so he pimp out his little niece to get some hair on. So this is not a bad man, okay.
I think we have time
Okay.
for one last question.
Then got me.
All right.
You got a bunch of preachers on the
Man,
pulpit.
come on now.
I just
You
wanted,
messed me up.
I wanted to ask and just raise the issue of what can be done more legislatively, politically on the foster care issue, which pretty much Tina knows pretty well. But, 60, 70% are coming out of the foster care system. So that's obviously broken, and what can we do to fix it so that we don't have girls being trafficked from foster care?
And so that statistic isn't even right? Because it's only girls that statistic is
Right.
for, and not even the boys. And I want to say that because, so people always ask me, how many girls, how many boys do you have? I always started working with boys. So I'm going to have the same exact numbers.
Right.
Because of my trafficking situation, family control inside of foster care, boys were trafficked right along with me.
Right.
So everybody's different. One, we need to understand that. So the reason I said that is this: boys are not getting identified. 100% of my boys are in the foster care system. That's why I made that statement. 100%, not 100% of my girls, but 100% of the boys were in the foster care system starting between the ages of 6 and 10. That's when their trafficking situation started, but it came in as child sexual abuse. The right questions weren't answered, so when they get to me at 13, 14, and they disclose, that was the original situation from the beginning, so that trauma hasn't been touched.
That's right.
The worker doesn't even know about it.
No.
So the right identification goes back to, at Courtney's house, there are 4 paradigms of sex trafficking. So are the assessments. So we cannot ask someone who is being pimped out by a family member if they have a pimp, because that's not the terminology that
That's
they
right.
use.
Exactly.
So it's about using the right terminology, not changing their terminology to fit ours,
That's good.
but changing our terminology to fit theirs, and also the paradigms, the rules. That way we can identify. So I'm actually pushing that more of what we're using to identify. And again, that statistic is just girls. And so actually boys have severe mental health issues. Most of my boys are actually schizophrenic.
That's right.
And so that's not even being touched on either, of the severe mental health. And my issue wasn't drugs. My issue was mental health too. So that's a humongous issue. So I would like to attach that. I get a lot of referrals from foster care, to be very honest, an awful lot. But what I see is I would love them to work with me. It's great. Like the social worker drops it off on you.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, thank you. I'm so happy I found someone. I have 40 other kids. I'm like, I got 52 other them.
Okay.
Right. So I think better collaboration within the foster care. But we are going to put up some, in April 16th, again, is the big SPOG meeting at the White House. And so that's when we're going to put out more of the federal plan for that, which will actually write it out more of what we're going to focus on in policy.
I think also that foster care providers, providers and the workers need to be educated. A lot of them don't know about exploitation. They think they do know about child sexual exploitation. They don't. They send referrals that say things like promiscuous and she's this and he's that, and it's not true.
And for boys, they still refer as a prostitute. I do want to say that. Girls, they're not saying that. But for boys, when they refer to me, they still say that.
Well, but the majority of our workers still use words like prostitution, which implies choice, and that these kids, and there is no choice. And so we change our language. We don't call it prostitution, and we educate. Every time I speak to a DCF worker, a Department of Children and Families worker, I change the language. I say we call that exploitation. We don't call that prostitution. Right. And I don't call it the life. Myself, I call it exploitation. It's not a life.
That's right.
It's like this whole little, I was in the life. It sounds like it's lollipops and daffodils. No, it's a life of exploitation. It's a life of horrific trauma. And we can do more if we begin to help people address it for what it really is and stop calling it these things that make it sound like it's okay, that it's acceptable, because it's not.
It's not.
Well, I want to thank these amazing women, and hopefully you guys will help me. I think they deserve a standing ovation.